I'm Josh. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Morson. Been with the company for 7 years in May. So I look after the carbon reporting, regulatory reporting, the carbon reduction plan, fun stuff like tree planting. I'm a big kid, I'm a big nerd. Life's changed over the past year, so things that I used to do, I haven't quite gone back to doing yet. But in terms of sort of general, family is a big part of it. Or my wife. I used to spend a lot of time outdoors. We used to have a very high energy dog who needed about 4 hours worth of walking. So I was often out with her. Used to do a lot of cycling. I'd cycle to and from work once, maybe twice a week, unless it was bucketing down with rain, then I didn't. It's not something that's been possible as of late, but something that I am aspiring to get back to. 2024, I went in for standard day surgery on my knee. I had multiple tears in the cartilage that needed to be fixed because they kept on causing issues and pain. In the morning, out in the afternoon. It's a surgery I'd had done previously on the other knee multiple times without any issues. I ended up getting an infection in the knee, so I was admitted back to hospital a week after the surgery with septic arthritis. So my knee joint was septic. Was in hospital on IV antibiotics, had to go into surgery a couple of times to have them try and clean out the infection. Was discharged, happy days, thought everything was good. And then January last year, over a span of a few days, my knee just swelled up again, back into hospital. The infection had returned. And then that started a couple of months worth of hospital stays, IV antibiotics. Whenever they stopped the IV antibiotics, I just got really sick. So I was in and out of hospital. I think I had 12 surgeries before the amputation. And even though I was on very strong antibiotics, the infection ended up going into the bone and it just started spreading up both sides of the leg. So the best option was amputation, just to stop the infection getting any worse. Because at one point I needed multiple blood transfusions, and it just, my body wasn't very happy. So then on the 23rd of April last year, I went in and had my leg amputated. Yeah, it's a weird, because I was aware it was going to happen for about a week before it happened. And probably the best way to deal with it was dark humor. I had a PICC line in, so the nurses were coming to the house to administer the antibiotics. And there was a point where my wife and I were just looking at funny T-shirts, sort of like just random slogans on them relating to amputation and dark humor. And her and I were absolutely counting ourselves laughing. And the nurse just was kind of like looking at us going, what's wrong with you? But it was one of the best ways to deal with it. I mean, the day of my amputation, I wore a T-shirt which said retired shark wrestler. So dark humor definitely helped. Having a support structure, having my wife was a godsend. And it was very much a journey, not just for me, but for her as well, just trying to figure out how to do things, navigating life in a wheelchair, everything from a different perspective. Coming back to work was daunting because I think I'd spent about a quarter of my year in hospital. So it was daunting coming back, obviously post-amputation in a wheelchair, but it was honestly one of the smoothest transitions. Luckily, the office is disability friendly, wheelchair accessible, and everyone was was absolutely amazing. Constantly checking in, saying if there was anything I needed, any adaptations I needed to let them know. So the sort of having that flexibility and that support definitely helped my transition back to work, back to the office. I'm incredibly grateful to be part of the Morson family, and I don't say that in a cliched way. It's a genuine. I don't know any other company that just has such a personal touch. I've had so many chats and check-ins with Jed where he's asked how I'm getting on, if there's anything I need to let him know. I mean, they even organised a ramp so that I can get out of the boardroom onto the top outside if I want, like towards the bar area. Just small little touches, and just checking in. It's made what was a really sort of daunting prospect coming back. It's just made a smooth transition. I'd had some visitors, some of my mates from one of the teams came to visit me. I knew we'd had conversations in advance, so I knew they were coming to visit. So it was really great seeing them. And then after they'd left, a few hours after, I knew Andy Wadsworth was going to come visit as well, but he hadn't told me that Jed was joining him. So I think I was a few days away from being discharged, but they were starting to sort of prep everything for the discharge. And then, so I'm just chilling on my bed, and around the corner walks Andy and Jed. And Jed gave me a bottle of rum, which I wanted to open, but wasn't able to open in hospital. And it was just, he was just checking in, coming to see how I was doing. I felt really awkward, obviously, being in hospital, and one of the nurses, because they were prepping everything for discharge, one of the nurses came past and she had sort of like a urine bottle, an empty plastic one to take home. She just like gave it to me, and I was just like, what do I do? Jed's standing in front of me. But it was such a nice gesture, just to have him come and check in to see how I was doing. Assured me that coming back to work, obviously they'd make sure that everything that I needed was available. So the transition back to work was probably the least stressful of the whole process. So I feel comfortable now, whether I'm wearing my prosthetic, whether I'm in my wheelchair, emotionally and just sort of mentally, it feels normal. I don't have that sort of nervousness or hesitation that I had at the beginning. I've discovered new sports. So I've started playing wheelchair rugby. Took a bit of a break last year, well, tail end of last year, but getting back into it, which is quite fun. It's surprisingly good for. It's fun smashing into people. You don't hurt them. It's just the wheelchairs that smash into each other. One of the things that I've said, I've been saying probably for the past year that I want to do is the charity cycle. So obviously wasn't able to do it last year, but I did it for a few years prior. So that's one big thing that I want to get back into. When I got my first, or before I got my first prosthetic, I said I wanted to go back into cycling. I've not been able to cycle in this one because it sits really high up on my hip. So when I tried cycling with it at the physio, or at the gym with physio, the back of the prosthetic was hitting the bike seat. So I was just merrily cycling, minding my own business, and then the leg flew off. But my next prosthetic that they're busy in the process of making now should hopefully be lower. So I'm hoping I should be able to get back into cycling with that one. So that's one of my big things, is being able to cycle and being able to take part in the cycle this year, especially with Amputation Foundation being one of the charities this year. I'm trying to try different para sports, just sort of something different to do, a way of sort of exercising. So I'm going to go to my first para ice hockey session middle of April. So that's something that I want to sort of try. I'm going whitewater rafting with Amputation Foundation in May. So I haven't, last time I went whitewater rafting, I was about 12. So looking forward to that. That should be fun. Yeah, I suppose it's just building up my confidence and getting back into just doing all the things that I enjoy.